Hey everybody, welcome to Lunch Therapy. I'm your host Joel Marshall, and I have behind me a hummingbird up there in the tree. We like to call ourselves the hummingbirds here at Lunch Therapy. We don't know why, we just like hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are somehow spiritual and fierce. They're very fierce, I don't know if you know, but they fight each other. This one right here is from Guignel, one of the longtime viewers of the show and contributors, and he is showing us his hummingbird that is actually protecting the hummingbird feeder by sitting up on the tree, looks down, and as soon as another hummingbird comes in, he swoops down, stabs him with his big old beak. So that's, you know, that's the hummingbird life. A lot of you think that they're precious little, sweet little birds, but they're actually vicious. And if they were our size, they would rule the world. It'd be hard to fly, though. It'd be really hard to fly. Todd Lee is here. Hoy. Hoy, Bear Buns Freude. On the show, we say hoy. I don't know why, and sometimes we pronounce words that way, like Freude. It's just a, you know, it's a tick. I think it's a tick. Over to my left, you'll see an advertisement for something called Show and Tell. February screening every last Friday of the month this happens, and this one happens to be screening the new sizzle reel from Good Old Joel, which is the project that I'm developing. It is about a guy who's over the hill and still chasing his dreams. He is, you know, he's going to make it big if he can just find his keys. That's the show. You'll see the trailer at the incredible Sethward Show and Tell. Missed a great show last night. I want to point that out. I was on Mike Perkins' Another Late Show Tonight. And that was so much fun. It's a live talk show that happens at the Loft Ensemble Theater in the Valley. And then it's videoed, and then it goes online and all that stuff. So if you missed that, you got to go next month. Ginny Sykes was there, Howard Ronan, lots of great people, Kamala Lopez, Katie, also known as Mulva, and Guignel was there as well. But tonight, Show and Tell. Show and Tell, it starts at 8:30 if you need the address. It's a secret, and you have to ask me for it. So, hoy, Kamala. Joel killed it live at Another Late Show Tonight show. Thanks. That's super nice of you. Autobiographical. So it's autobiographical. All right, so here's another hummingbird for you. This one's really cool. Guignel also sent me this. This is like a close-up for those of you that don't have those hats that are hummingbird feeders and you don't get a close-up view of hummingbirds. Here it is for you. Where can I find it? Online. Holy Todd. You will find it at the YouTube channel for Another Late Show Tonight, but it's not out yet. I think if you go to Mike Perkins' YouTube channel and subscribe there. Oh yes, Lawrence was there too. Lawrence, incredible actor. I hope that you can, he'll probably be there tonight too. You can see Lawrence. Let's get into the show. What's the show called again? Boney, what's it called? Guignel wants Lawrence Arthur to be on the show. That was the Lawrence that I was speaking of before. Lawrence is an incredible actor. I don't know if he's a budding comedian. I don't know, you know, when you said to him, hey, you should be on Joel Marshall's Lunch Therapy, he's like, what would I do? I just say yes, no. He's one of those interviews that might be a yes, no response. And that makes it hard because then I just end up talking over them because that's my nature. But I would love to have him on the show. We've got to find him maybe a sketch. Maybe we'll do a sketch. Guignel's gardening skills still need some work. Yeah. He's got hummingbird skills. Kamala Lopez says Show and Tell is an awesome event once a month in Hollywood for some real cool creatives. Highly recommended. If you can make it, you won't regret it. I think that Todd should catch a plane, get down here by 8:30 tonight. Brenda Tyson is here. Yes. So great to see you. Celebrating our chat room. I've got a thing from Super Jeff Lohman. This is the therapy part of the show, by the way. Super Jeff Lohman sent me this. It is footage in Malaysia of a flying lemur, also known as the Malayan Kalugo. I think that's right. Is that right, Boney? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Malayan Kalugo. I don't know. It's not flying right now. And I was trying to get Jeff. I was like, Jeff, can you please get me one that flies? Because it's kind of boring to watch it sitting up in the tree there. But he was like, you know what? I'm already gone. I'm already on to the next place. Chuck Goldsmith is here. Kamala loves the tigers. Beautiful cats. Nina Zaragoza is here. Yes. Hi, Nina. Nina is my sister-in-law. She's a beautiful, wonderful person. She was on a show. She was a guest one day on a Friday. So check it out. Nina, she's an incredible teacher and just a wonderful person. And she loves cats. Like the one on my head. I seem to be sepia for some reason. Boney, could you fix that? I don't know why I'm sepia. We're going to breathe here. Well, we thank all the Patreons, Mike Knox, Jay Patterson, Pam Palmieri, Neil Phillip, Hummingbird provider, Sethward, and Mary Marks. Thanks so much for being Patreons. You can be a Patreon by going over to patreon.com/Joel Marshall. It doesn't cost very much, just a little bit every month. You can cancel it at any time. Hoy, Nina. Hoy, Brenda Tyson came here from Elyssa's Instagram. Yes, the guest today, if I haven't told you yet, is Elyssa Phillips. We're so lucky to have her on the show. She's an incredible comedian and an actor, and you're just going to love her. And but we're going to first have to breathe. We're going to breathe to the dulcet tones of Cosma. Kamala, I think you will recognize this place where Cosma is playing. Okay. So this is a hand pan in an undisclosed location that someone might guess where it is. And I'm just talking about Kamala here. And we're going to breathe while we listen to this beautiful music. Elyssa is amazing. She's amazing. Hoy, Pam Palmieri. All right, in through the nose, out through the toes. Let it go. Ding, 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 ding. Kamala got it right. This is actually Pachamama, which is a place that Kamala and I went to in Costa Rica one time. And this is the Osho dojo or whatever, where they sit and, I don't know, there's like a guy that talks. Kamala's like, oh my God. Yeah, I know. I was surprised when I saw it too. We ran away from it because we were scared. But I don't know what it's like. We don't really know. We stayed there for a while and we were like, is this a cult? I don't know. And then we escaped in the night. In through the nose, out through the toes. But that's just us. Hold it. Let it go. Cosmos seems to be doing just fine there. I thank him for playing that beautiful instrument. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Hand pans are also good for making paella. Thanks for that tip, Matt Wright. Was this during the pandemic? Well, we went down to Costa Rica pre-pandemic. We wanted to get some R&R. Went to this place, Pachamama, that Benjamin Alfaro recommended. He's a world traveler. And there's a whole show about it. There's a couple shows about it. We'll have to get the numbers of those shows. I'm not sure, but in Lunch Therapy, we explored that whole thing and talked with Benjamin about it. It's where the great leader sits and pontificates like my male family members, and he is surrounded by adoring young girls. It was a little like that. We got some great stories from that place. Anyway, I think we've done our breathing. All right, here we go. This is a Lunch Therapy Interview Friday for those of you who are new to the show. On Fridays, we interview people. A lot of times they're comedians, actors, directors, philosophers, musicians. We started the show when the pandemic began, and we couldn't perform out in the clubs and stuff, and I started the show as a live streaming show, and it started to become like a way for us to keep healthy, and now it's a way for us to keep our creativity, and we have comedians on Tuesdays. We just riff and have a crazy old time and have some game shows. Matt Wright said we escaped a cult. It's a whole genre. You guys need to get into that. Cult escaping. Yeah. So today we have Elyssa Phillips on the show. Keita Mascaro was on the show maybe 3 episodes back. Incredible promoter and comedian and clown, budding clown. He was on the show, and I was going to go see the show at the Bourbon Room, but I had to work. Sometimes you have to work. So I couldn't go see it. But who was on the bill? But Elyssa Phillips. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this person? I started watching her comedy, and I was just like, we got to get her on the show. She seems like a really cool person. And we're going to experience her here as soon as I stop jabbering. Everyone was licking frogs and dancing with the blue deer. And it was scary how high they all were. Okay. That's the thing also. The chat room in this show is very engaged, and sometimes it takes the show off into really interesting places. So the chat room is as much the show as I am. Hoy, Mary Marks, very nice to see you. Thanks for being a Patreon. Let's get this thing going. I'm going to give you a little intro so you know a little bit about Elyssa. She started out in the theater, equity, actor, went to school for the theater, even studied in jolly old England, did Shakespeare, all kinds of things. And she also does improv. She was the artistic director of the Pack Theater, and she's a hilarious comedian that has opened up for some really huge comedians out there. And she also, has done her own shows. We're going to find out more about that. She opened up for Iliza Schlesinger. She's a fantastic comedian as well. Let's get into this thing. It's called Interview Friday. Hoy.
I have both daddy issues and mommy issues. I know, yeah. My daddy issues are caused by his absence. My mommy issues are caused by her presence. She's a lot. She does what I call the Jewish goodbye. Have you heard of the Irish goodbye, right? Right? Like someone Irish goodbyes out of a party, they just like dip out, they don't say goodbye, you go to look for them, they're not there. So that's the Irish goodbye, but my mom it's the Jewish goodbye. So when my mom leaves a party, it's more like, I'm leaving the party! I'm gonna leave the party right now! In case you were wondering, this is me walking out of the party. If you wanted to say goodbye, this is your chance. Goodbye, Michael. Goodbye, Mauricio. Goodbye, Laura. I put my recipe for guacamole on your fridge and liked a little bit of garlic. We'll talk about it next time, because I'm leaving the party. I have a son. He lives in Manhattan. My daughter's single in Los Angeles, and I'm leaving the party.
All right. Yeah. Love that. All right. Welcome, Elyssa. Welcome to Lunch Therapy.
I need this. Thank you so much for having me. I've been sitting here Googling hummingbirds. I just got a massive lesson on hummingbirds.
Wow. Tell us what you've learned because we need to know.
It's less about learning and it's more like I'm criticizing. Like when you mentioned that they protect the nest in case other hummingbirds came, I was like, that is so not the improv comedy way. Because the improv comedy way would be, yes, and please come to my hummingbird nest. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
It would
yes.
be a little bit welcoming. Hummingbirds would not do well in improv comedy.
No, they just shut the whole thing down. And so Todd Lee asked a question right off the bat. Which is worse, Jewish or Midwest goodbye? What's a Midwest goodbye?
I was going to say, what's a Midwest goodbye? I don't even know what that would be, but I would love to know.
I would love to
I'm
know
still
too,
going to.
Todd. I do the Irish goodbye. I just like disappear.
I do too. I
You
do
do?
too.
I
All the time. I'm really bad at like at saying when I want to go and I don't want to make the rounds. I'm out.
yeah, like just wrapping up and like trying, and then that conversation. Oh man, I used to have a friend whose mom would say goodbye, and then we would not leave for another half an hour.
That's what I'm saying. And like ain't nobody got time for that. So it's just like no.
Ain't
I'm out.
nobody. Are you from New York?
I am from New York.
You moved out here in 2014, so you were in New York for a while, right?
Yeah, well, I'm born and raised, and then I went to college in Philly.
You went to college in Philly. Is that where you started doing stand up, or you started doing theater there?
I started doing theater in New York. I went to college in Philly, and that's where technically I studied in England while I was still living in Philly. And I started improv at UCB in New York while I was still living in Philly. Does
Nice.
that make sense?
Yeah, that makes some sense. Did you always? Were you always funny, like when you were a kid and stuff?
God, I hope so. I have no idea. That's my mom. I've always been like a theater brat, so I would hope. Comedy is always what I gravitated towards. The genre itself, minus the stint when I thought what I wanted to do was be a classical actor performing, and then I realized that they don't like Americans. But yeah.
What do you think about that with Americans? Like, it seems like it's more popular to be Australian or British when it comes to being an actor.
I think anything but American.
Anything but American, right?
I mean, I was trying to be a classically performing actor in England as an American.
What was that like? Did that help?
No. I studied out there, and then I realized that like they're doing just fine out there. They don't need us, unless you're like a celebrity and you're going out there. But yeah,
I thought maybe if you went to England, this is a little fantasy that I had, that you would go to England, they'd be like, and you would be like exotic there, like they are here.
Whoa.
And they'd be like, we gotta put this guy in everything. Oh my God.
I don't think people see New York Jews as exotic. I don't think exotic is the word people think of when they think of New York Jews.
Yeah, your parents were in show business too, right?
My mom is a musician.
Yeah.
And my dad sings a cappella in barbershop.
Oh, that's cool. So growing up in New York, were you around a lot of performers? Because like I grew up in Seattle, there were not really a lot of actors or comedians.
Oh, right. Okay,
you know what I mean? But where you were there a lot of people pursuing that?
I also went to a lot of theater. I skipped a lot of school to go see theater. Sorry, Mom. Yeah, and my mom's band rehearsed at our house every Tuesday night. I was actually probably surrounded by more musicians than anything.
What kind of music did they play?
My mom plays in a classic rock and roll band. She plays bass and percussion, and then she gets gigged out. She gets hired out to play drums. My mom is way cooler than I will ever be. It's fine.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. We at the end of the show, I didn't tell you this, but at the end of the show, we play a classic song that is covered by somebody, and we dance around. Maybe someday we could play one of your mom's band songs on the show.
You just look up Turnpike Joe in the Traffic Jam,
and
my God.
We're looking that up. Cool. Okay. Todd Lee says Midwest goodbye is when someone says they're leaving the party but doesn't for 20 to 30 minutes because they keep talking to people and saying goodbye. That's like my friend's mom. It's totally like my friend's mom.
It's essentially the same, only when you're Jewish, it's just louder and longer and more annoying.
Seattle goodbye. I do like Seattle goodbye. I leave without saying, but I feel bad about being rude, so I go back and say goodbye. You get out of the
that's
car, you're
funny.
like, oh shoot, I'm being
There's
rude.
no
I'm gonna go back.
policy with food. And if anything, we put like the Jewish goodbye, we put you down in the process of the goodbye. It's like
I love what you
not
did on the stage, because when you did your impression of your mom, you took the microphone down and you just yelled.
oh, she's loud. It's loud.
Is that something you've learned, like modulating your sound? Like you can tell like a really good comedian because they know how to modulate the sound with the mic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm loud to begin with, but for sure, I think that's something, yeah, you have to work on when you're like working out your bits. You know what I mean? When you're like trying new things, when you're trying your act outs, I think that's an element of the act out.
Yeah. Kamala says, are you kidding? New York Jews are the best version of exotic. Everyone tries to imitate them all over the world. It's true.
All right, maybe. Okay.
Are you a big Gilda Radner fan?
I am a big Gilda Radner fan.
That's what I thought. She was great in that way too. Rosanna, Dana, and all that.
One of the reasons I got into comedy. So
really.
Yeah.
So when you were trying to be when you were starting out and you're like, I'm going to be a serious actor, did you have some kind of turning point where you were like, you know what, I'm going to go down this other road of being a comedian? Was there like a moment where you decided that, or you saw that you had this talent?
Maybe. So what came to mind when you asked that? I mean, I've always tried to just be open to any and all opportunities and any and all experiences, and just try and be open to receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what comes to mind, I hope this answers your question, was during the pandemic when I was the artistic director of the Pack Theater.
Yeah.
I realized that for a long time I wasn't filling up my own cup. That I genuinely enjoy lifting other people up. I love empowering other people. Anyone who knows me knows I'm like the biggest Instagram commenter on people's posts. Like I genuinely get excited for other people and their successes and their happiness and all of the things. And I realized that I wasn't doing that for Elyssa. I was everyone else's cheerleader except for myself. And that was the turning point with regards to going full-time or more energy, more time into stand-up, because that would be filling up my cup. Still an actor, just did a self-tape yesterday. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but with regards to improv and sketch and running things, I kind of put that aside because those were not filling my cup anymore.
Do you think being a stand-up is a faster path to making a living, being a performer, than perhaps doing theater in Los Angeles?
Making a living? No, none of it makes a living.
None of it makes a living. Well, what about these people? Okay, I was just over at Cedars-Sinai, and there's all these buildings named after performers. Do you think that money is no longer available to performers, and we all have to have day jobs? They say that people on Netflix shows are like working as bartenders and stuff now. Do you think that we're just like in a new era?
There's a big misconception, I think, with how much performers and actors make. There's a big misconception.
Yeah.
I don't. There's a very small number of people who make a living as actors and especially comedians.
Yeah.
It's a very, very small percentage. So, yeah.
I want to show a clip from your acting from Silicon Valley, the show Silicon Valley. Let's do it.
Lori, Ariel encrypted all of his files. We can't open any of them.
Oh, understood. Keep trying, please.
I spoke with the bank. We're not going to make payroll.
Noted. Thank you for your diligence.
People are pretty upset. Somebody shattered the toilet.
Ah, yes. Well, we'll certainly have to get that repaired, won't we? Good work, you two. Hang in there.
All right. What was that like working on that show?
It was a lot of fun because Thomas Middlewick, one of the regulars on that show, is an improviser. So I know him from the improv world. So that whole experience was great because you get to sort of, they let us do the scene scripted and then they let us improv. So it was a lot of fun. That was
they did improv in the show. There were people improvised a lot.
I want to say the take that they used was actually the scripted one, but they let us play around a lot, which was fun.
Oh yeah, that's cool. And those performers, I mean, what year did you do it? Do you know what season you were on?
Oh my God, I don't remember.
I just wonder, like, were the performers kind of in a groove? And did they shoot that in Los Angeles? They shoot it in Los Angeles?
That was shot in Los Angeles. They were definitely in a groove. I mean, it wasn't season one.
Yeah.
I don't remember what season it was, but they were definitely in their groove. Very, very well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that all the sets I've worked on have been very well-oiled machines.
You were a hilarious comic actor. I'm going to play few clips here. Yes, we're going to do it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lahiri. And I'm sorry when you told me to push, I called you a bitch.
I'm not proud of myself, but I knew if anyone could help, it'd be you.
Take my hand.
I feel better already. You really do have the touch.
It's an acupressure point that relieves nausea and anxiety.
Are there any acupressure points on my thigh?
Oh, too much.
Sorry about that.
Site visits?
1.2 million.
Conversion rates?
6.4%.
Can't believe you girls pulled that off.
Got the data right here, sir.
Who came up with this business plan?
We did.
Who coded this?
We did.
But they've never seen shit like this before.
Oh my God. What are you doing?
Wow, that held up great. Smell.
That was hilarious. So that last one, what happened? You killed somebody, or what? What was that all about?
Yeah, I did. I killed somebody.
I guess so.
A long time ago. That was a lot of fun.
What made you come out to Los Angeles from New York? Like, why did you decide to make a leap to Los Angeles? And that was like 2014 or so, right?
Yeah. This July will be 10 years, which is insane. At that point, I had taken a couple of trips to LA to like test the waters. And at that point in the business, I took a lot of meetings with a lot of agents and casting directors. And the consensus was, you're very funny, but we don't do bi-coastal anymore. That's where the business was at that point. Wow. So it was, there were very few opportunities in New York that were on camera. It was like Law and Order and Law and Order SVU and Rescue Me. Yeah. And, but there seemed to be more opportunities in LA. So I was like, let's just give this a shot. You know, everyone's telling me that I need to be out here. So let's just go out here.
That's cool. And how did you start doing stand-up? Like, did you take a class or did you just go out there and do it? Do you do open mics?
I did. I studied with Pretty Funny Women, which is a company owned by Lisa Sunstedt, who it's been around for, I want to say like, I have no idea how long it's been around, but it's got to be like 20 years. She does a really great job of teaching women in comedy and empowering women in comedy and giving women in comedy opportunities. And so I studied with her while I was still doing improv and sketch performing at the PAC. And at that point I was performing at the PAC and UCB, IO, but rest in peace. But I
wanted to ask you about what do you think the state is of sketch comedy and improv now in Los Angeles? Because a lot of companies, it seems like UCB went away. There was the Acme Theater. You know, there were a lot of theaters that were doing improv in Los Angeles, and some of them seem to have folded. Do you think that it's a different climate, or what do you think it is about, or do you think it's transforming into something else? I
think it's a different climate for sure, but I think these things always come back. I think these things are always very like cyclical. You know, UCB has gone under a transformation where it's no longer owned by the UCB4. It's owned by like a company.
Oh, really? It is. Oh, I didn't know that.
But
company?
A venture capitalist company.
Wow.
However, there is still like old school UCB teachers teaching and performers performing. So that and the PAC is still there. Groundlings is still there. You know, Second City is like opening in Brooklyn, I believe. And
there's a company called Improv for the People too, which we had Matthew on from that. Yeah,
and
a lot of good stuff.
it'll always be there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I still think, agents will do what they've always done, which is say you have to have improv on your resume. I just
UCB,
think
when
right
we're
now,
saying UCB, just so people out there know, it's Upright Citizens Brigade, and it was here in Los Angeles. It got really big for a while, had like this whole complex, and that might be just before the pandemic. And I don't know whether that's why they ended up having to sell
for a
it.
very long time. Upright Citizens Brigade was started in New York,
Yeah.
and had two theaters in New York, opened up in LA, and then ended up having two spots in LA, and run by a bunch of great people. Amy Poehler is probably the biggest name, but from the UCB4. But yeah, an amazing place. Their manual is still a great reference. Like the UCB manual, I think is fantastic. It teaches you something called game, which if you're getting into like improv or sketch, I think is fantastic.
That's cool.
I still think the pack is.
The pack. What was different about the pack? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. The pack was started by Miles Stroth, who Miles is an improviser and was on a team called The Family, which is the last team to be coached by Del Close, who arguably invented long form improv. Miles started the pack. Before we were called the pack, we were called Miles Stroth Workshop. And there was improv, and you were taught by Miles Stroth and Heather Ann Campbell, who is one of the best improvisers out there, in my opinion. And it was taught by a bunch of people. Brian James O'Connell, who a lot of people know from IO. Brian James O'Connell is one of the best improvisers and improv teachers I've ever had. And then Miles started a sketch program there with Eric Moneypenny and Sam Brown at the helm. And now Mike Upchurch teaches there. And there's wonderful people. I can go on about all the teachers. Rich Sohn is an amazing improviser and teacher there. Sean Landry. But for me, what was different about the pack was that I feel like, I'm just going to say it. I feel like you go to UCB to learn structure, and then you go to the pack to be funny. And I'm not saying you don't learn structure at the pack, because you do learn structure at the pack. But I feel like when you're in comedy, you have a responsibility to take chances with your art. That's what we're supposed to do, is take risks and chances. We push the boundaries of comedy. I'm not saying anything offensive. I'm just saying your job is to take comedy and push it. What's funny? How do you make that funnier? And I feel like at the pack, you are encouraged and given the opportunities and the tools to help you learn how to take risks in your comedy. And that only makes you a better artist. And I have never experienced that kind of teaching and embracing of that kind of a philosophy until I studied at the pack.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think you're a very physical comedian? Do you think that you learned that from improv, or what do you think? What stoked the fires of your physicality on the stage?
God, I think being a New York Jew, I just think it's in me. It's like my natural innate energy. It's probably a combination of lots of things. I mean, I'm a trained actress who took a lot of movement classes and Alexander technique, and
what is Alexander technique for people out there who might not?
It's a breathing technique. It's a movement technique that's based in breath. But there's a lot of grounding work that happens with it, a lot of connecting with your body and the
aligning
emotions.
of the spine as well. Yeah.
Like a lot of the emotions that are involved within the breathing. But yeah, I'm a dork. I'm a nerd. What are you gonna do?
That's good. I love it. What do you see as your path forward as a performer? What is I'm going to put this up here. You recently had a birthday, and you had this dream board.
My vision board.
That's your vision board, right? So you make vision boards. Can you tell us a little bit about that and about what this means?
I like a good vision board. Instead of having a therapist, I have a spiritual advisor, and I love her dearly. And Raven is fantastic. Rooted in Alchemy is her Instagram. Go find her.
Cool.
And she, one of the many things she does for me is helps me create vision boards. But yeah, this is, for me, 2024 is all about my mantra is sort of, and I'm sure it says it somewhere over in there somewhere, but it's I'm letting the universe surprise me. I'm releasing constriction on lots of things because I'm very type A and neurotic. And I like control, and I'm releasing all of that, and I'm sort of I'm letting go.
Yeah.
That's for me personally. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking like I do a lot of thinking as well, and a lot of have a lot of anxiety. Sometimes I feel like it fuels my comedy. You know what I mean? Sometimes I have like a creative flow that's going on in my head that comes out of my mouth and becomes comedy. But at the same time, we do meditation and things to kind of quiet our mind as well, because you have to sort out the things, what's useful and what is just going to cause me problems. You know, like before I go on stage, I got a whole thing that goes on in my head that is really negative. And I have learned to not listen to it, or at least I say to myself, you know what, it doesn't matter what I think before I go on stage. It doesn't matter how I feel. Tell me.
I'm different. I would take those feelings and say, I hear you.
Yeah.
I see you. I recognize you.
Yes.
And we're going to move through this. So I move through my feelings.
I like that.
But I do a lot of that with meditation. I meditate every night before I go to bed. And that will vary based on like what I'm working on. I got crystals in places you don't want to know. But yeah, so.
Okay, so when you meditate, do you have a particular type of meditation that you do, or what is your technique?
It varies. It varies depending on, like yesterday was February 22nd, 222, which is a powerful number. So I specifically did like a 222 activation meditation. So it depends. Sometimes I do a lot of guided meditations, but sometimes I'll literally just put on like instrumental music and let that go and just try and concentrate on my breathing. Cause that's a very difficult thing for me to do. You know?
A lot of us, it is. A lot of it's because our minds are going and we're
racing.
Also like,
normal and natural. And I think the important thing is when your mind does that, it's okay. And then you just say, oh, okay, now we're going to come back to breath.
Yeah.
And even if it happens 80 million times, that's okay. It's okay.
Do you do a mantra or any kind of chanting or anything? Have you tried that?
No. I mean, I have in the past, but not like in my daily meditations.
Are you into numerology? Because I see you were talking about numbers, and then there's 444, and then there's 1111.
Yeah, for me, those specifically for me on my vision board is because they come up a lot in my life. I see a lot of it. I'll be doing something. I'll look at the time. It's 222. It's 1111. It comes up a lot in my life. Yeah. So it comes up so much that I'm like, you can't ignore the fact that it comes up. And for me, it's just reminders that like, I'm on the right path, stay positive, keep doing what I'm doing, you know, like just trust. There's something really freeing about putting the trust into the universe because the responsibility is not on me. I just gave it to you. So like, do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do. There seems to be a lot of letting go. With the vision board and everything, do you strategize though? Do you say like, this is my route to, do you feel, are you a person who just lives in the moment and says, let's see what God shows me next, or let's see what the higher power or whatever is? Or are you somebody that also plans?
I'm trying. I've really never been that kind of a person because I'm so type A, neurotic, Jewish, like I'm so like, I plan everything. I'm so like down to the hour, like this is what I'm doing. And like, like I'm so scheduled and blah, blah, blah. And I'm finding a balance between that's who I am. But also letting go. So it's a work in progress. You know what I mean? It's a work in progress. I give myself that grace to let myself be where I am. I'm always going to be a type A neurotic woman because that's just who I am. And I'm okay with that. But I also think there's something to be said for like stopping and breathing and listening to myself and listening to what my intuition is saying. And there's something to that.
What are your favorite places to, the chat room is really going crazy because they're really identifying with that. They're really identifying with it. They're not like going, what the hell are you people talking about? But it's so true. So what's your favorite way to develop material?
God, it's so many different things, but I guess it's, from experiences and, conversations and just things that happen. And then you find something that you want to like extrapolate on, and then you extrapolate on it. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Sense.
There's no, but then the actual work that goes into it is a lot different, but,
do you find that talking it out or writing it out or both or collaging it out
sure.
or
Yeah,
note
right?
cards? Like, what's the best way for you to do you do all of it?
I do all of it. I think it's a combination, especially for someone like me who, I studied sitcom comedy, and that's like my heart and my soul is like 3-camera network sitcom comedy. And the music of comedy is what like lights me up and makes me really happy. So for me, it's talking out the joke, but it's also writing it out, and it's mapping it, and it's mapping the pace. And that's why we do the same joke multiple times. Cause it's like, if I hit this word differently, if I take a breath here, what if I say it with this inflection? How can I hit the joke harder? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah. We had Maya DiGiorgio on the show, and she was talking about that also. And I think maybe her relatives might've been musicians, if I remember correctly, and your mom is a musician as well.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the musicality of language is affected by the way you were around music a lot when you were growing up.
Maybe that's entirely possible. I also think, again, if you like study comedy, the music I always say, the perfect example is the pilot episode of Cheers. If you watch the pilot episode of Cheers and then you read the script alongside it, I don't mean to geek out and I apologize, but it's like,
please.
It's a piece of music. It's literally set up, joke, 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 set up, joke. It's music. It's a piece of music.
Wow.
And I get off on that. That's what I get.
Well,
I joke about why I'm single, and it's because my partner of desire is comedy.
Shakespeare's like that too. I mean, not to say that Shakespeare's not comedy, but Shakespeare's like that too. You do a Shakespeare play, and at the end of it, you feel like you've got all this energy because it's like crack the whip, because you just become a vessel for this language that has its own life, has its own rhythm. It's written in.
Yeah, it does the work for you. If you a good script like Shakespeare, or I reference a lot to Cheers is a good example, All in the Family, but more modern things, Big Bang Theory, all those scripts are pieces of music if you let them. You just have to let them.
Yeah. That's why people go back and watch Friends, because it's
music. It's a piece of music.
Yeah, and those actors become so good at it too.
Yeah.
Do you use any of your acting technique in your comedy? I mean, first of all, you said Alexander technique, but what's your kind of base for your acting technique?
I studied a lot of Meisner when I was in college. Mm-hmm. I was blessed that where I went to college, I went to University of the Arts in Philly, and basically they don't teach one method, they teach several different methods. So you can sort of pick and choose what you like and kind of make it your own, which I really appreciated. And I guess the way I really use it in my stand-up is just by being truthful and listening. Because I think, while I'm obviously telling a story or telling jokes, your reactions influence that,
Yeah.
I don't like hecklers. I mean, when you connect with people.
Definitely, there's a conversation, an ebb and flow that goes on between you and the audience. Do you? What are some of your favorite places to do stand-up in Los Angeles?
Oh wow, I love the Ice House. I love the Ice House so much.
It's really something else, isn't it? Nowadays,
been there?
Yes, it's incredible.
What they have done, and now it's owned by Johnny Buss and Penny Toller is over there, and they've made it like a sporting event. So now it's run, for anyone who doesn't know, the Ice House reopened under new ownership, and the owners are the owners of the LA Lakers, and it's it feels like you're at a sporting event, which is so different than most comedy clubs.
Yeah.
And I know some people, when they first came to see me there, they were like, oh, well, it kind of lost its charm. And I was like, but it's got a special
It's got its own thing. Yeah. It's got its own thing.
I mean, I always love the store. I love the belly room at the store. I think it's got such a fun vibe, but I think for me right now, the Ice House is like sort of where it's at.
Yeah.
I love it there so much.
I haven't been over to the Bourbon Room. How is that?
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
Like such a cool vibe, such a cool energy, and like such an event. I was so happy to do Kita's show. But it was, and like the audience was great. And it was because like they felt good in that space. That space like energizes the audience. So yeah, the Bourbon Room was great.
Yeah, I want to get over there and do something, or at least see something. So that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely should.
Are you right? I know I'm asking you a lot of questions because it's very interesting also, and it really is helpful for people because they come to Los Angeles and there's so many different paths to go down.
Yeah.
And it becomes a bit confusing. Sometimes it just stops people. Are you writing? Are you trying to develop any kind of like your own sitcom or anything like that?
Yeah, I actually wrote a show about Gilda Radner.
Did you? How cool! Wow.
So there's some movement with that. So yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, and I'm working on another script that will, hopefully get pitched, and so that's in addition to obviously writing stand-up. So yeah, keep it busy.
And have you been doing stand-up outside of Los Angeles as well?
I just got back from Vegas.
How was that?
I was in Vegas performing. That was so much fun because, you're performing for tourists. You're performing for people from all over, which is also fun because like I recently performed in Cleveland, which was so much fun, but it was all Cleveland people.
Yeah.
And when you're in Vegas, it's people from all over. So there's something to be said for performing for people in from different locations. So and I head to Sacramento soon, and then I believe I'm in Wisconsin soon.
Wow. Do you feel like at this level where you're starting to open for big comedians and you're going to be doing your own probably special at some point, and then you'll be in the Netflix as a joke thing and all that stuff, do you find that at this level though that you have to establish who you are when you get on the stage? Because there's doing comedy where there's all people and they know you, and you don't have to like define yourself when you walk on the stage. And then there's doing comedy for complete strangers. And then there's also people that are famous and they do comedy, they walk out on stage, they don't have to establish who they are. I wondered if you have to establish who you are when you come on the stage, or are you just so such a person that is like self-defined that you don't need to do that?
I think I come on stage and you know exactly what you're getting yourself into.
Did you know right away?
I think I am very authentically me. I don't think I've ever gotten a note that's like, we need you to be more Elyssa. Like, I don't think, you know what I mean? I'm very self-aware, for better or for worse.
I love what Joanne says. She's, I do not speak loudly, because she said that like,
ladies and gentlemen,
at the beginning. I love that. Okay, well, this has been wonderful having you on the show, and I just really appreciate you being here.
I really appreciate you having me.
Do you have any? What would be your one piece of advice to somebody if they just moved to Los Angeles, they want to be a performer? Do you have any advice that you would give them? Because sometimes people they just they get off on the wrong track, like I was saying. Is there something you could help them with to get them on?
It's so cliche, but it's just like, don't give up. It's just keep going. It's hard. Like there's that Deadline article that came out yesterday or 2 days ago, and about actors and acting and how difficult it is in the business right now. And I read it and I was like, I mean, it's always been difficult. There's
I wanted to comment in the thing like, oh, it's hard to get an acting job. I was like, wow, that's news.
Also, don't even get me started on that, because the former strike captain in me will come out, which is to say that Deadline and Variety and the Hollywood Reporter are owned by a company that's in the AMPTP. So like, you got to be careful what you read. But but like, the only advice I can say is what I tell myself, which is like, just trust what you're doing and keep going. Don't let the noise will always be there, and that's fine. You don't have to like ignore it. I acknowledge you, noise. I see you, but like you ain't gonna stop me. You know what I mean? Like you just gotta keep going. You know, if you have that heart, if you really believe that like you have it and like you want to do it, then nothing and no one can stop you. So there's no reason to let it. Just keep going.
Also, you can't listen to what everybody tells you. And that article has appeared many times in many different forms, and it's just there to discourage you. And one of the things I was saying to my wife, who just said, fuck that article, I was talking to her about it last night, and I said, you know what? As far as being an actor goes, it's really oftentimes one part that makes your career. I mean, I was saying, like, if you think of Brian Cox, for example, that guy was acting his entire life, and he was in Manhunter and Super Cops and all that stuff. But Succession defined him, and whatever his path was to get to that role, that was one role, and that's all it takes. Really, that's all it takes is for.
Which is so funny because I bet you, if you asked him, that wouldn't be like his favorite role.
It might not be.
Him. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. He's been around a long time and has done a lot of good work that people don't know.
He turned down Game of Thrones, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like other people might be kicking themselves like, oh my God, I turned down Game of Thrones. But this guy is just, obviously he loves acting, and you have to love what you're doing. And
you have to love it.
Not ask for everybody's approval of it.
It's hard, but sure.
It's hard.
Yes, it's hard. Great. Thank you. Moving on.
All right. So we're going to dance this thing out. Thanks so much for being on the show. I've got a cover song. It's not necessarily danceable, but it's a really nice cover song. So we're going to do that from one of my favorite bands. They're called The Main Squeeze. They're a Los Angeles band. And we're just going to dance it out. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Dance break time.
Where is it?
It's a different version of Hotel California.
For a second grade,
what do you think it was? Can't even hear. We can't hear.
I think now.
Okay.
On the dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair.
Love it.
Yes.
Warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. My head grew heavy and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. There she stood in the doorway. I heard the mission bell, and I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could be hell. Then she lit up the candle, and she showed me the way. I heard the voices down the corridor. I thought I heard them say, welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place, such a lovely face. Leave your room at the Hotel California. Any time of year, you can find me here. Her mind is Tiffany twisted. She got the Mercedes Benz. She got a lot of pretty boys that she calls friends. How they dance in the courtyard, sweet summer sway. Some dance to remember, some dance to forget. So I called up the captain. Please bring me my wine. He said, we haven't seen that spirit here since 1969. Voices are calling from far away. They wake you up in the middle of the night just to hear them say, welcome to the Hotel California.
to the solo. You're gonna hear the solo.
back in Hotel California. What a nice surprise. Bring your alibis. Mirrors on the ceiling. The pink champagne on ice. And she said,
are these
we
people?
are all just prisoners
Main squeeze.
here of our
They should be huge, and maybe they are huge.
And in the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. They stab it with their silly knives, but they just can't kill the beast. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax at the nightmare, we are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Here we go. Guys, all right. Thanks everybody for being here. Check out the Main Squeeze when they come to town or when they're in town. Check out their YouTube channel. Check out Elyssa Phillips' website to find out where you can see her next. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe we'll do a show together. That would be awesome.
I would love that. I don't know how we haven't met. Yeah.
Right on. All right, we'll see y'all next week for more Lunch Therapy.